This stuff, Yerushalmi Shabbos, the article Ozvar Adishim Radaf Pei Vav Murav right at the top, being the Gemara Kasa B'Dio, which in the Vilna is on Ayin Amr Aleph, the beginning of the Gemara Locha Daled, about halfway down the page. Kasa B'Dio Agabe Al Yerkos. He wrote with ink, which is a substance which can last on Al Yerkos, on vegetable leaves, where the even though you wrote with ink, the writing will last because it's written on vegetable leaves, not on a proper surface. Or conversely, b'mashim appearance, you wrote with a substance which can't be sustained, beverages and fruit juice. Luach, even though you wrote on a luach, on a slate, which normally could be mekayim miksab, you're potter. Ashil davashel kayamal, davashel kayamal, to write with something which is sustainable on something which is sustainable. You wrote one letter in Tveria and one letter in Tziporin, which are very far from each other. You're still going to be chayev. Well, how could be chayev? We learn if they can't be read together, you're exempt. You have to be able to read the two letters together. Bar Memo said the Korban Edo changes it to the to seed instead of besira, beseed dak, which is very thin plaster, which evidently can be removed and peeled and put else in the and put next to the other letter, wherever that other letter is. I have a second word that the Rashba also writes that. I don't know if it's the Rashba, but in the Torah Shorishon brings down the name of the Magi Mishnah, Hilchos Shabbos, Perek Yalaf Halachid Beis. To put the Besidak Perush and Megillah saying Besidak. I'm not sure where it says Megillos, but I assume that it's written on, even on the wall, but it's with the thin plaster which can be moved from place to place and therefore peeled off and moved to the other location. Okay, new issue. You have witnesses. You need to sign a document, and they are illiterate. They don't know how to sign their names. So it's Rosh name B'Dio. You can mark their names down in front of them in ink, and then they sign on top of it with sikra, which we said is this reddish tint, and because that's also an ink, so the second ink obliterates and takes the place of the first ink, and therefore it's that now you have their signatures. So or vice versa, it also works as well. With Sikra, right, you sign their names in that red tint, and then they sign it. They write in black tint on top of it, and that is considered to be a valid chasi masa'id and valid signature of the witnesses. Rabbi Yochanan said, no. On Shabbos, that'd be also. But because we're assuming that it's talking about a get, this document here, because we just because we are it says machmirin v'oisrin lasos came Shabbos. We forbid you to do this on Shabbos. We consider the ksav agabi ksav to be valid writing. And therefore, now doing Shabbos. We allow this in the case of a get. No, we can't allow it. It's not going to be sufficiently definitively writing when you're just tracing what was underneath, and therefore you are you might be machmir on Shabbos. You're not going to be meko by a get. Ella, maybe rather, what you do is maybe you bring blank paper, which you're going to use as a stencil, and you rip in that stencil the letters for their names. They come and they fill in the stencil, and that way it becomes their signature. Raymona asks, why do we don't don't use ink on top of red tint or red tint on top of ink. Just do water, which is definitely not a miskayim, and let them sign on top of that water with real ink. Bavir Irura Bato. So the Bnei Moshe doesn't actually change the gear, so like Bnei Moshe very often does. I think the way he reads it is Bitmiya. Bavir Irura Bato. If he comes to marry, you think his ear is going to be easy to. The husband comes and complains that the get is invalid. You think his ear is going to be so easy to dismiss? The Yerushalmi Kibshuta just changed the gears. But let's see Moshe. If you say just the initial mark is made in with water, I said the husband is going to come claim to say it wasn't probably because you could see the water mark at least temporarily. If you almost he's going to say it's writing top of writing and it wasn't valid. Therefore, this idea is superior. If name to rip the pay a stencil from them, and they sign through the rip the stencil. 5 minutes or and this if it comes to his mara and this, then it's urs bottle. So the shopper can pay because of. So I guess actually, if Moshe is learning it, the bottle or bottle is not bitmiya, which sometimes he does say, but here it's saying that only in the case where you do a stencil, then it becomes his mara is urs bottle. But in the case of the water, it's ur not be bottle. Therefore, don't do the water, do the stencil. Okay, a korea al or tavnis katamis ksab chayev. So Midbar says or katamis ksab kasa kamen einazal kasa or adam. You write on the flesh of a human being. But he says it doesn't say the words orug then. How the words orug come in. But anyway, then it says skin peg basal mashkin or stam. So if you rip. Oh, actually, it's going to the next part. That's why. That's another way Ori comes in. But anyway, hakrel or ketanik savchayv. If you rip hide, then and it looks like writing your chayev. Haroshim or ketanik sav. If you write on hide and the korban is going to human skin, according to the Ridbaz, it's going on any hide. Potter, it's not considered to be evidently miskayim. The leather is not considered a legitimate surface. So the skin is not considered to be a legitimate surface. Amalan Rabbi Lezer said below. It's obviously not talking about hide, which is off the animal, the human being, because that's can be klaf. The klaf, of course, is one of the basic substances which you're right. But everything it's about a live human being, alive, according to a live animal, according to the Ridbaz. Amar Rabbi Lezer said, "Lo ben sata, lo yikshem mitzrayim ela b'kach." The way he snuck magical formula out of Egypt is he wrote on his skin. Because he says this because of that fool, he did something aberrant. We're going to cause the loss of several smart people. In other words, who, if they do it, obviously they know that we're doing is mlocha miskayemes. So now it goes back to Gittin. Kasav lo chokek. You have to write a get, as the Maybe Rosh writes Kasav gabe get ksib the Kasav. Right? V'darish, we expound that v'lo chokek, not to engrave ala tavla on a tablet, b'sakin with a knife. V'lo metif, not to drip nukudos, drips of ink, kitzuras os, even though it ends up looking like the form of a letter. V'lo shofech, not to spill. Kin Farsh Kamei, like it explains later on. So kasav chokek, kasav lo metif, not to drip. Kasav lo shofech, not to spit, to spill. Kasav lo chokek, so to write and not to engrave. East time if you chokek. Says you can even if you carve, it's okay. So how to reconcile seeming contradiction? He who says that it doesn't work if you engrave, bebolate mokam aksav. It's where the place of the letters are sticks out, like a coin, where you mint a coin by pushing down the sides, and so therefore you're not actually writing whatever is written there, but pushing down the sides. The which is chak tochos and which is chak yurechos. I think that's it's called chak tochos. Carving the ascenders of the letters in their sides, which is not considered to be writing, as opposed to chak yurechos, carving of the legs of the letters themselves, which is considered to be writing. Okay, so there, a few chokik works, gon hin pinkasa. It's like a pinkas. So evidently they had this in their ledgers of the merchants. They used to have a. Use styluses to make impressions in them, and and that's considered you're actually making the letters themselves. Because of lametiv, to write not to drip. Rabbi Shalom and Rabbi Tanya Charamar, but Shelo Yerev Nekudas. It only remains in points, like pixels, right? That and they don't actually get mixed together. Charamar feel Erev Osios. No, even the actual Nekudas. Sorry, even if you actually the drops get mixed together, it's still considered to be not a form of writing. Writing and not to spill. The people of the East, Arum and Sagion, they're very smart. So someone of them wants to send words which are mistricken, mysterious, right? A secret. Who kasav may milin. He writes with a may milin, which is a comes the liquid which comes from walnuts. And sorry, I skipped. And the person who gets to the letter, which looks like it's blank, Shovich Dio. He spills in it ink which does not have gall, the gall oil in it, the gallnut oil in it. And it gets absorbed into the place where the gallnut oil is. So this is the case. This is the case, as the carbonator says. You spill this. The get was written with the invisible ink of the gallnut oil, and then you spill on it regular ink, which takes the form of the letters of the gallnut oil. It's possible. You can't use writing on top of writing. Okay, so the what do you do this in Shabbos? This you take the invisible ink and you paper and you spill regular ink on it. The other way, who should custom dio agabi dio of the secret only part in Shabbos he wrote ink on top of already existing ink or red tint on top of already existing red tint. And custom dio agabi secret, but if you wrote with red with ink top of red tint or secret agabi dio or red tint on top ink, you are chayav. So anytime you change, and certainly if you change from mea patzim to ink, you're going to be chayav. Yitzhak Mishai Sherabaz the Tamon said chayav stein. You're chayav 2 when you put the ink on top of the other ink, which is this Rabbi Bovel said mishum mochek mishum chaysev. You're erasing what was said was below and writing a new level of writing. There's a whole contemporary issue with silkscreen Sifrei Torah. Silkscreen Sifrei Torah, where they take a stencil and they put ink on the stencil, and you have a Sefer Torah which is written. And Rabbi Abadi, or Yitzchak Abadi, the place that was Machsher, holds that since it only works if like you apply pressure with a stick to the back of the stencil, so the ink actually goes through the silk screen and goes on the Sefer Torah, so that's considered to be actually writing, not considered to be shofech. Okay, says Elohei. Mashkin b'mei peros b'avak drochim. You wrote with mashkin, which is like berry juice, says the Korban, which gets dark, or meperos, or any other type of fruit juice. Bavak drachim, he wrote with the dirt of the road, which name Korban first shot says with mud. Another shot is that he gives Avak drachim etzbo. You made forms in the dirt of the road with your finger, or something like that. Bavak sofrim, you use the dust which the sofrim dry their writing. Chol davar shem skayim eating, which is not skayim potter. Lachev wrote with the back of your hand. Shinui, beragla with your leg, bepiv with your mouth, bemarpeka with your elbow. Kasav os achas, some of you wrote one letter next to existing writing. Kasagabik you wrote on top of other writing. It's time to ches, if you had in mind to write a ches for kasa bei zainin, and wrote two zayins. Echo ba'aretz becha b'kora. You wrote one letter on the ground and one on the beam, and they can't be read together. It's not see dak like we talked about before. Al shnei kosei abayis, on two walls of the house. Al shnei dapei pinkas, on two leaves of a ledger. Very negim zem said they can't be read together. Potter, all these cases are potter. Kosav olive nutrikon. You wrote olive as a rosh teva. The you made a apostrophe with it, like a chumchik. So you see olive. Rabbi Yehuda Memsera a mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda says you're chayev. It's in lieu of a whole word, and therefore you are chayev. Rachel and Pochi Rachel say you are exempt because you didn't write a whole word. You just wrote one letter. Okay, says the Gemara. You have to write the Shem Havaya in the Sefer Torah. But you had in mind to write the Yehuda by mistake. And you forgot V'lo Dalet. So you have Yud Kei Vav Kei, but you had in mind to write Yehuda. Harei Hashem b'mkomo. So the shame is in its place. It's, in other words, it's written properly, but it's written Shalol Lishma because you had in mind to write Yehuda. So Humachko, you can erase it. Umekaimo, and then you can rewrite it. V'ubekdusha, and it is kadosh. You have to erase it. You can erase it, even though it says Yud Kei Vav Kei, because you had in mind to write Yehuda, so it's not Kedusha Hashem. Yeah, but it says Maves Akumos. You don't actually erase it. You just put pass your pen over it again. Umekaimo, it's a statement. Rabbanan don't agree. Almost they said Afhuina mina muvchar. It's not muhudar. It's not appropriate. So it sounds like it's not appropriate, but theoretically it'd be okay. It would be writing, even though ksav agabi ksav, but it's not muhudar. And the Gemara is going to say that it's actually, Gemara says later on the Farshim say because it's menumar, it doesn't, even though it's writing, but it doesn't look good to have writing on top of other writing. Menumar, it's called. That sticks out. It's like the tiger has stripes, so it looks like striped because there's different U's. You write on top of other writing. So I'm going to go with the Girsa Korban Eder here. This is slightly different what we have in the Gemara. It says, Mechav Shitaz Rabbanan Rabbi Yehuda. The Shita of Rabbanan seems to contradict himself. Tam and Amrim Ksav. There they say it is a Ksav. V'achin Amrim En Ksavu. And there they say it's not a Ksav. V'achin Perusha. This means say, Gabi Akoisev, Hashem, by writing the Shem, Amrim Mish Ksav, Gabi Ksav, En Amrim Amuvchar. It's not a hitter. It doesn't look good. Right. Machami Ksavu. It sounds like it is writing though. V'achin Masis is not Ksav, Gabi Ksav Potter. But here, it's like Ksav, Gabi Ksav by Shabbos, you're Potter. So it sounds like it's nothing. It's not Ksav. So Gemara says, Hu b'shitaso heshivu. They respond to be according to his shita. B'shitaska, l'shitaska she'adam ksavu, that you say ksav, we hold ksav ksav is not ksav. And the arts coming down, it's actually machlokas in the Bavli, whether what Rabbanan hold, they hold ksav ksav is not ksav, or it is ksav, it's just not appropriate for Sefer Torah. But the Yerushalmi shita is that Rabbanan hold ksav ksav is not ksav at all. But shitaska, according to you, that you say it's ksav, it's still enam and amuvchar. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zav the Shem Yabol Lo Amar Ken. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Zav the name Rabbi Yaakov did not say it this way. And Mechav Shitase, he says Mechav Shitase, and the way the coordination is given here is Mechav Shitase V'Tana Kambed Rabbi Yehuda. So he explains. Kormei explains. Omar came the shitas Rabbi Yehuda Yeshivu, and Mechai being Akri Mesi. He gives a different interpretation, right? And the Tanakh, I'm not sure why it changed before to Rabban Rabbi Yehuda. Here changes it to Tanakh Rabbi Yehuda, but it's the same idea that the Rabbanan seem to contradict themselves. Talmud Omer Amuna Muvchar. It sounds like Talmud Muvchar by Tibet Torah Ksav Ksavu. But here it says by Shabbos Ksav Gab Ksav Eno Ksav. So the Gemara says, so how do we reconcile the contradiction? Not the Shitos Yeshivu, but a different way. Mao Ksav Agabe Ksav Chad Le'el Michad. So what's Ksav Agabe Ksav? So one on top of one. So the Kormei explains, because of Os Echad B'chalolosh Os Hasheni. You wrote one letter in the cavity of the other letter. Ve'ein's Ksav. That's not Ksav. So other times Ksav Agabe Ksav is Ksav. But so what's Ksav Agabe Ksav? Where you're writing inside the Chad Agabe Chad one and inside it another one. Inamir also another pshat. Shalok Ksav Mishur Achas. You didn't write them in the same letter. V'yev Shal Chaban. The same line. You can't connect them together unless they are, you cut and paste. And it's they can't be read, as if they can't be read together. Even though they're on one service, they're not mitzaref. Those Moshe says, the Mao Ksav Gab Ksav Masisim, what's Ksav Gab Ksav our Mishnah that you're potter? Because of Os Echol Malam Os Shalamato. One letter, literally Ksav Agabe Ksav. You wrote, and then you wrote on top of it, not on top of it, but on top of it, like with a carrot, and wrote on top. Because of Os Echol Malam Mia Os Shalamato, you wrote one letter on top of the letter below. They can't be read together, which is a little bit like the second shot. Maybe it is the second shot of Kormei. But really, I'll tell you elsewhere, the Ben Rabban and Ben Rabbi Ksav Agabe Ksav Acher, where it's literally sitting on top of it, it's a different Ksav, on top of the first Ksav, Have Ksav, it is a Ksav. So since they were not, since this is actually Ksav, we write the second letters mamish on top of the first letter, so therefore they have to say it's Eina Muna Muchar. Okay, in my time at the Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir, getting back to our Mishnah, what's with Yehuda ben Meseir who says you're chayiv when you wrote an aleph from the apostrophe or anything like that? So me'os achas ad lo mikama osios. From one letter you can extrapolate all the other letters, so therefore it's considered to be unit, and you're chayiv because of kosev. Okay, that brings us to the top of Pei Zayin. We'll stop here.